what's the date today? 1st of December. Today is 1st of December. And in my rapidly growing role as the roving reporter for the Siebel Hub, I find myself in southwest London, which, to be honest, is not very far from where I live. And I have a chance today to sit down with a long-time Siebel community member and thought leader, you won't mind me calling him that, Duncan Scattergood from OnTheMove. Duncan, if I'm not mistaken, you've been in the Siebel community for quite a long time.
As Richard said, I've worked in the Siebel industry for a long time now, 18 years. Started an organisation called Customer Systems back in 1998, which was and still is a very expert Siebel consulting organisation. And our Customer Systems has grown a separate organisation called OnTheMove, which has a product of the same name, which was originally all about putting Siebel on mobile devices, so tablets and smartphones and so on. And from there, it was also grown into any situation where you really need a really smooth, optimized process flow for Siebel. And now we can support other back-end applications as well.
So mobile applications are a really hot spot in the Siebel ecosystem at the moment. What are you doing with OnTheMove at the moment?
Okay. So probably the latest, most exciting thing that we've been working on is a new vertical for the clinical trials industry, so the Siebel CTMS vertical. And we've just done a very big deployment of that to an organisation called Amgen, about 900 users spread around the world.
Wow. I noticed, incidentally, that there's a tablet sitting on the desk in front of you. Does that mean you're going to show us it a little bit later on?
Absolutely. Be very pleased to do that.
Okay. Well, you mentioned a very specific vertical, which, I'll be honest, my knowledge of that vertical was pretty limited until you talked about it on the phone. What about the other main areas where you see mobility in Siebel? Do you guys work in that space as well?
Oh, absolutely. So OnTheMove is a very horizontally focused product that we then build out into specific verticals. It's absolutely key to understand, really, that in mobility, you need to optimize the process to each and every organisation. So once you've got verticals, it will be configured for every particular customer, and we've got a particularly neat and easy way of doing that. But in terms of verticals, field service is probably our biggest vertical. Siebel sales is also important to us. Consumer goods, another big vertical for us. And we've also got some not-for-profit customers.
Oh, it's interesting because, as I said, Siebel mobility and mobile apps is a big hot ticket right now. And there are a number of different players in there. And each have different ways of approaching the same problem. Would it be right in thinking that your approach is, now that you have the technology down sus, is essentially attacking it from the process point of view?
Absolutely, and to attack it from the point of view of the individual organisation. So when we come to implement OnTheMove, one of the things that we want to do very early on is really look at the process flow within an organisation and absolutely optimise that. If I've got a process that's a bit clunky, to be honest, in old-fashioned Siebel, and that's on a big PC, if I think about taking that down to my smartphone, it's going to be pretty dreadful. I'm going to take a slightly clunky process, and I'm just going to make it worse because of the form factor. So you really need to go back to square one and ask yourself, what's the optimised flow through all of that? And then how do I maintain that optimised flow while still leveraging all of the value that I've got embedded in my Siebel configuration?
And I suppose in different industries, or maybe in different customers, you hit the problem of multiple kinds of device. You know, you talked about a mobile phone as being a challenging form factor, but a lot of organizations might, for example, have multiple kinds of tablet. You know, they might have a Surface in one department, they might have iPads in another. What I see from my world is that the end product is not necessarily identical on all those platforms. How do you guys go about providing a process that can be uniformized across different platforms?
Interesting question. So I think the first thing to say is we actually see in the Siebel space with mobile, people started thinking about tablets, so iPads and smartphones, but actually tablet PCs have become a really, really important platform for us. because it's a device that allows people to run the other applications that they need for their business. The other thing is we've got lots of deployments where there might be multiple devices, but the reality is when you're building out a process, you're probably going to start with a premier device in mind and have 100% on that, and then you work back and have a process that's good but not 100% optimized for the other platforms. But absolutely, we've got OnTheMove on a tablet here. If I were to take this configuration I'll show in a moment and run it on a phone, absolutely that's going to work and be a perfectly good user experience.
Which I think is a good opportunity now to see into a demonstration of OnTheMove live. It's not often that a member of the ecosystem will volunteer to do a demo live. So Duncan, it's going to be over to you. What kind of process are you going to walk us through?
What I'm going to do now is show you a little bit of OnTheMove for a field service engineer. When we're thinking about mobile applications, it's really important that the user can focus on the job on hand and not the application. So you can see here, everything's very stripped down and simple. I've got a list of the jobs I'm going to work on. I can see I've not started any of them by the colour of that icon, and I've got some really basic details about each job. I suppose I want to work on that top one, so let's touch on that. What we can see here is some basic details about the job. So, for example, it's an emergency in the time or the asset history, and I can touch on any of these tiles and I can go down and see more information. So really, really simple. And we generally find that when people implement OnTheMove, they sort of think they're going to need to train all the users, and then after they've rolled it out to the first 20 or 30, they realise that's unnecessary, and thereafter they just give it to the users. So I can come back here. So I've sort of reviewed the job, I know what I want to do. I'm now going to start travelling towards it. So I just touch start travel. So we can see that compared to the sort of average Siebel user experience, we're really cutting down on the navigation. And I'm just going to follow a process through. I'm en route, and then I'm going to be on site, and I'm going to wrap up. So suppose I've arrived on site, travelled very quickly. And this is quite typical on OnTheMove now. I've got this sort of scroll up and down type navigation that everybody's very familiar with these days from their smartphone. So I won't go into each individual area given the time we've got available, but here I can see that I'm building up a log of my travel time. And again, rather than having to create a new record and then key in a pile of details, if I finish that work task, all I need to do is key stop, and there we go. It's filled in, or I could start a new one. So when I've finished, I'm going to wrap up. I'm going to be asked a question: is my service request complete? If it is, then I get a whole pile of detail. If I click no, then I see some other fields there. So again, we're only going to present the user with stuff that's appropriate to the context in which they're working. I can see here that it's mandatory. So we're all the time trying to guide the user as to what they're meant to be doing next. Let's just get rid of that. Yes, we go. Scroll down, I can review all of that, capture a signature, submit it, and now that's been moved down in the list and I can see that I've completed it. So very whistle stop, but I hope we can see there how simple OnTheMove is to use. So obviously this was for field service, but we've also got pre-built functionality for clinical trials, for sales, for consumer goods, and so on. And really the point here is we don't want something generic, we want something that's very focused on the task in hand the minute we're talking about mobile.
All that remains for me to do today is to thank you, Duncan, for the time you've taken to demo your product.
Welcome.
And I look forward to seeing you and your team in the near future on the Siebel Hub. How can our readers get in touch with you if they need to?
Okay, well, obviously look forward to meeting as many people as possible. If anybody's interested in what we've said today, please just head over to the Custom Systems website and get in touch, and we'll be happy to have a natter.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Duncan.
Thank you.
Take care.